The grand chambers of the Galactic Council hummed with the low thrum of 1,000 alien voices, a symphony of clicks, whistles, and guttural rumbles that usually signified the weighty matters of cosmic governance. Today, however, a different sound dominated the air, the collective, thinly veiled amusement of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. At the center of this opulent arena, upon a raised dais shimmering with crystalline light, stood Ambassador Cathar. His multiple, elongated limbs gestured with theatrical disdain as he addressed the assembled delegates. Cathar, a representative of the highly advanced Cathar Confederacy, embodied the sleek, self-assured arrogance that came with millennia of technological superiority. His compound eyes, faceted like polished jewels, scanned the vast hall, lingering. And for a moment on the lone human figure seated at the back, he spoke in a voice that resonated with a subtle, mocking echo, a feature of his species' vocal cords. Distinguished delegates, revered elders, we gather today to consider a matter of galactic efficiency. Specifically, the continued, shall we say, inefficiency of the human species. A ripple of chuckles spread through the chamber. Cathar paused, allowing the laughter to subside, then continued, "For cycles, we have observed their methods, their reliance on slow FTL drives that crawl through the void like ancient slugs, their baffling attachment to primitive material sciences when energy constructs offer infinite versatility, their utter failure to grasp even the simplest principles of complex, multi-dimensional physics." More laughter, louder this time, punctuated his words. Anya Sharma, the sole human representative, sat in her minimalist chair, her posture ramrod straight, a quiet defiance etched into the lines of her jaw. Her deep brown eyes, usually warm and expressive, were now cool, almost icy, as she met Cathar's condescending gaze. She was a woman accustomed to the weight of expectation and the even heavier burden of galactic prejudice. Her simple, dark blue Alliance uniform, unadorned by the intricate bioluminescent patterns of the xylos or the pulsating energy fields of the nebulae, made her seem almost invisible amidst the vibrant tapestry of alien life. Yet her presence, however understated, held a peculiar kind of gravitas. Cathar, sensing the mood, pressed his advantage. They cling to their solid ships, vulnerable to even basic energy signatures. They struggle with navigation beyond 3 dimensions, a concept that even the youngest of the myriad folk can conceptualize before their first molting. They speak of human ingenuity, yet their contributions to galactic advancement remain negligible. He concluded his preamble with a flourish, his limbs sweeping wide. "Therefore, I formally present a motion to the esteemed Council to officially restrict human access to advanced stellar cartography and to designate their current operational territories as Tier 3 exploration zones, effectively limiting their reach to a mere fraction of the known galaxy. This is not punitive, esteemed delegates. It is merely a pragmatic step towards ensuring the overall efficiency and safety of galactic trade routes and resource allocation." The chamber buzzed with agreement. The crystalline xylos, their bodies shimmering with an inner light, emitted a series of sharp, resonant chimes, their equivalent of applause. The gaseous nebulae, swirling masses of sentient energy, pulsed with bright, satisfied colors. Delegates from 100 different species, each with their own unique form of assent, signaled their approval. Cathar turned, his multifaceted eyes fixing on Anya Sharma. "Ambassador Sharma, do you have any, shall we say, last words before the vote?" His tone dripped with condescension. Anya rose slowly, deliberately. The sudden silence that fell upon the vast chamber was almost deafening, a testament to the unexpected nature of her composure. She walked to the central podium, her footsteps light but firm. As she reached it, she placed her hands flat on its smooth, cool surface, her gaze sweeping across the faces of the delegates. Her voice, when it came, was soft, clear, and utterly devoid of emotion, a stark contrast to Cathar's booming theatrics. "Humanity's potential," she began, her eyes briefly meeting Cathar's, "is often underestimated, Cathar." She paused, letting the simple statement hang in the air, a whisper of defiance in a storm of ridicule. She offered no grand defense, no impassioned plea. She simply stated a truth that seemed to ripple with an unseen force. Then, without another word, she turned and returned to her seat, her back to the council, waiting for the inevitable. The vote was a formality. Holographic displays across the chamber flickered green for agree with overwhelming uniformity. A sea of green, save for one tiny, solitary red flicker from a newly joined neutral observer species who seemed more confused than opposed. The motion passed, overwhelmingly. Humanity was officially, unequivocally, relegated to the sidelines of galactic exploration, deemed too slow, too primitive, too human. Cathar smirked, a multi-limbed shrug conveying his complete victory. The other delegates began to disperse, their laughter no longer polite murmurs, but open booming guffaws as they discussed the day's amusing outcome. Anya Sharma remained seated, her expression unreadable. The light in the chamber began to dim, signifying the close of the session. As the last alien forms shuffled out, Cathar lingered, pausing near Anya's seat. "Perhaps, Ambassador," he purred, his voice thick with triumph, "your kind should stick to what you are good at, perhaps gardening on your small, contained planets." He turned to leave, a satisfied chuckle escaping his throat. Anya remained still until the sound of his retreating. Footsteps faded. Only then did a faint, almost imperceptible smile touch the corners of her lips, a smile that held no humor, only a deep, unsettling resolve. She looked down at her compad, her thumb hovering over a single encrypted contact. The screen glowed, with a name: Thorn. The laughter of the council echoed in the empty chamber, but in Anya's mind a different echo resonated, a hum, faint but persistent, a hum that spoke of something far beyond the current understanding of any alien empire. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. It was about to be proven profoundly, catastrophically wrong. Sure, here is part 2 of the story, the whispers of Project Chimera, the journey from the glittering, condescending halls of the Galactic Council to the unassuming human colony world of New Alexandria felt like traversing not just light years, but entire dimensions of understanding. Ambassador Anya Sharma, shedding the rigid formality of her council persona, moved with a controlled urgency through the bustling spaceport. Her mind replayed Cathar's smug pronouncements, the collective dismissive laughter of the alien delegates, each echo stoking the quiet fire of determination within her. The flight to Dr. Aris Thorne's hidden laboratory, nestled deep within a seemingly mundane research facility, was deliberately nondescript. Security protocols were layered, subtle, and incredibly tight, a testament to the immense secrecy surrounding Project Chimera. This wasn't merely a classified initiative. It was a ghost whispered only among a select few, a phantom limb of human ingenuity that even much of the Human Alliance itself knew nothing about. The facility, from the outside, looked like any other orbital research station, a cluster of utilitarian modules orbiting a verdant terraformed moon. Inside, however, a series of complex biometric scans and retinal locks led Anya deeper, past standard physics labs and into corridors that grew progressively less conventional, the air humming with an almost imperceptible energy. Finally, she arrived in a vast cylindrical chamber, its walls shimmering with holographic projections of intricate mathematical equations and swirling energy fields. At the center, hunched over a console, was Dr. Aris Thorne. He was a figure of quiet intensity, his greying hair perpetually dishevelled, his eyes, magnified by thick spectacles, burning with an almost manic brilliance. Thorne was a paradox, a theoretical physicist whose genius bordered on madness, a man capable of conceptualizing realities beyond common comprehension, yet who preferred the company of his equations to polite society. He didn't look up immediately, his fingers flying across the console, manipulating complex data streams. The room was filled with the low thrum of humming machinery, the soft click of keyboards, and the occasional whir of diagnostic tools. Anya waited patiently, observing the holographic displays. They depicted strange, rippling geometries, structures that seemed to fold in on themselves, disappearing and reappearing in impossible ways. This was not the familiar, predictable physics of FTL drives or energy shields. This was something else, entirely. The Council, Anya finally stated, her voice cutting through the hum. Thorne's fingers stilled. He slowly straightened, turning to face her, a weary sigh escaping his lips. They passed it, didn't they? The restrictions. It wasn't a question, but a resignation. Anya nodded. Unanimously. They believe we are limited, stagnant. They believe we have reached our ceiling. Thorne scoffed, a dry, bitter sound. Their ceiling, perhaps, not ours. He walked over to a different console, his movements surprisingly agile for a man so often lost in thought. With a flick of his wrist, a new set of holograms materialized in the air between them. These weren't equations, they were detailed schematics of a ship. But this was no ordinary vessel. It was vast, sleek, and eerily beautiful, an obsidian teardrop shape that seemed to shimmer, its outlines blurring at the edges. It pulsed with a faint internal light, appearing and disappearing from various perspectives within the holographic display, as if playing hide-and-seek with reality itself. "Project Chimera," Thorne stated, his voice now imbued with a quiet passion, "isn't about building a faster FTL drive, Ambassador. It's not about bigger weapons or stronger shields. It's about transcending known physics. It's about folding space-time in ways their limited three-dimensional minds can't even begin to conceive." He gestured at the shimmering ship. "This is the Eventide, and she doesn't travel through space as they understand it. She travels through dimensions." Anya already knew the basic premise, but seeing the schematics, feeling the subtle energy of the lab, brought the true scale of Thorne's ambition into stark relief. "The energy requirements, Aris," she murmured, a hint of concern in her voice, "and the stability. We've had so many setbacks." Thorne's smile was a thin, humorless line. Setbacks? Yes. Years of them, explosions, temporal distortions, the occasional brief terrifying glimpse into realities that would shatter a lesser mind. The ridicule, Ambassador, from even within our own human scientific community, was almost as constant as the Council's derision. He walked around the holographic projection of the Eventide, his hand passing through its shimmering form. "They called it a fool's errand, a waste of resources. They called me mad. They said it was impossible to manipulate the fabric of existence, itself to exist out of phase with standard reality." He stopped, turning to face Anya, his eyes gleaming behind his spectacles. "But we persevered. We learned. We understood that the universe isn't just the three spatial dimensions they perceive. There are others, higher ones, nested like Russian dolls, unseen and untouchable by their primitive FTL drives. The Eventide is designed to slip between these layers, to become, effectively, a ghost in their machine." He pointed to a small, isolated section of the schematic, a complex array of conduits and energy emitters. The dimensional phasing arrays are the key. They generate a localized, higher-dimensional bubble around the ship, allowing it to desync from our usual reality. Imagine being able to see a flat picture, but then stepping into that picture, becoming part of its deeper structure, while others only see the surface. And its current status, Anya asked, her voice hushed, the enormity of the project truly sinking in. Thorne's expression softened, a rare display of genuine pride. She's nearly complete, hidden deep within the gas giant Kepler 19b, cloaked by a network of dimensional distortions that make her utterly invisible to conventional senses. Even a Cathar deep space probe flying directly through her coordinates would register nothing but nebular gas. He gestured to a large, pulsating red dot on one of the wall projections, nestled within the swirling green contours of the gas giant. That is her, the impossible ship, the key to humanity's future, or perhaps, he added, a darker shadow passing over his face, our final, desperate gamble. The air in the chamber seemed to thicken, charged with the weight of this secret, this colossal undertaking. Anya felt a thrill, cold and sharp, course through her. The laughter of the council, the condescending voice of Cathar, suddenly felt distant, irrelevant. They were laughing at a trick, at a cleverly disguised magician, while the true magic was happening behind an unseen curtain. Thorne looked at Anya, a flicker of exhaustion in his eyes, but also an undeniable fire. The time is coming, Ambassador. Soon, very soon, the Eventide will make her first sustained jump into the higher dimensions, and when she does, the galaxy will learn just how much they have underestimated humanity. The hum of the machinery seemed to intensify, a silent promise echoing through the hidden lab, a prelude to a future no one, save for a handful of dedicated humans, could possibly foresee. The true game, Anya realized, was about to begin. The Eventide's hum, the journey from the sterile, hushed confines of Dr. Aris Thorne's secret laboratory to the heart of Kepler 19b, was a descent into an alien sublime. Anya Sharma, bundled in a specialized environmental suit, felt the subtle tremors of their shuttle as it plunged through the gas giant's turbulent, hydrogen-rich atmosphere. The gas giant, a swirling canvas of emeralds, sapphires, and golds, pressed in around them, a beautiful but utterly hostile environment. This was no ordinary planet. It was a cosmic veil, hiding humanity's greatest secret. Below the chaotic surface, where pressures would crush any conventional vessel, lay the gargantuan, almost mythical construction bay. It was a place of impossible scale and silent, relentless work, carved from the very core of the giant. The shuttle docked with a massive camouflaged entrance, and as the airlock hissed open, a low, persistent hum filled Anya's ears, a sound that vibrated not just through the air, but through her very bones. This was the hum of the Eventide, the ship that defied all known physics. Stepping onto the observation deck, Anya gasped, a sound lost in the vastness of the chamber. Before her, stretching for kilometers in every direction, was the culmination of Project Chimera. The Eventide was immense, dwarfing even the largest Alliance battleships. It was a sleek, obsidian teardrop, its surface absorbing all light, making it seem like a void carved from the gas giant itself. But it wasn't truly dark. A faint ethereal light pulsed from within its very skin, a soft internal glow that hinted at the incredible power contained within. This light rippled across its impossible curves, giving the impression that the ship was somehow fluid, alive, constantly shifting at the edge of perception. Thousands of human engineers, technicians, and specialized crew members moved across its surface, like busy ants on a colossal, sleeping titan. They were dwarfed by the sheer scale of the vessel, their movements precise and practiced, performing final diagnostics and calibrations. Cranes the size of small cities extended their limbs, delicately placing the last few plates of its unique, multi-dimensional hull. Commander Jax Orion, his face a roadmap of weathered lines and quiet determination, approached Anya. He was a man forged in the crucible of impossible missions, his eyes holding the steady gaze of someone who had faced death and looked it squarely. In the eye, Ambassador, he greeted, his voice rough but warm. He wore a specialized flight suit, its patches denoting countless successful and equally countless near-fatal deep space maneuvers. She's nearly ready. He gestured with a gloved hand towards the vast expanse of the eventide. Final power conduits are being cycled. The dimensional phasing arrays are at full charge, cycling their unique energy signature. Jax had been with Project Chimera from its very inception, assigned to it when most dismissed it as a mad scientist's folly. He remembered the whispers, the snide remarks from his peers in the Human Alliance fleet. Orion's gone soft in the head, they joked. Chasing ghosts with that crazy professor. He'd endured it all, his belief in Thorne's vision unwavering, fueled by a deeply ingrained human spirit that refused to accept limitations. He led Anya closer, to a reinforced viewing platform overlooking the ship's massive engine core. The hum here was louder, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through the very deck beneath their feet, a living pulse. "We've run the pre-flight checks 1,000 times, Jax explained, his voice full of a contained excitement. Every single system is green. The temporal stabilizers, the multi-frequency emitters, the power regulators for the interdimensional field, all optimal." Anya remembered Thorne's earlier descriptions of the terrifying initial test jumps, moments where the eventide would briefly flicker out of existence, tearing minute holes in the fabric of space-time around it. It was like witnessing a tear in reality, then seeing it mend itself, leaving only a faint echo. Jax could only hint at the sheer terror of those early tests, the way the ship would vanish, and the sickening lurch as it reappeared sometimes. A microsecond later, sometimes hours, their clocks out of sync with the universe. The crew had been handpicked not just for their technical brilliance, but for their mental fortitude, their ability to stare into the abyss of the unknown and not flinch. Just then, Dr. Thorne himself arrived, his usual disheveled look replaced by a rare crispness in his uniform, his hair still wild, but his eyes blazing with an almost feverish anticipation. "Ambassador, Commander," he nodded, his voice tight with controlled eagerness. "The calculations are complete. The environmental parameters for the deep jump are within acceptable margins. We have a clear window for the sustained dimensional shift." He looked up at the colossal ship, his creation, his life's work. "The time has come for the eventide to prove her impossible nature." The crew on the deck below began to move with renewed purpose, their communications a rapid-fire symphony. Of final reports, klaxons began to sound, a low, warning wail that echoed through the vast chamber. Lights flickered, then stabilized to a brighter, more intense glow. The hum of the eventide intensified, growing into a deep, vibrating chord that resonated through every fiber of the human observers. It felt less like machinery and more like a primordial force awakening. Jax Orion stepped onto a nearby command console, his fingers dancing over holographic controls, preparing the bay for the ship's departure. "All personnel, prepare for dimensional displacement field activation. Secure all systems." His voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, cut through the rising hum. Below, the thousands of workers began to retreat to shielded observation bunkers, leaving the massive ship alone in the colossal space. Anya felt a prickle of nervous excitement, a feeling that mixed awe with a primal fear of the unknown. They were about to witness something truly unprecedented, a violation of universal laws as understood by every other species in the galaxy. The silence that followed the last klaxon was absolute, broken only by the increasingly powerful, resonant hum emanating from the eventide. It wasn't just a sound, it was a physical sensation, a pressure in the air, a vibration in their very bones. The obsidian skin of the ship began to shimmer more intensely, its edges blurring even further, as if it were already starting to unmoor itself from this dimension. A faint, almost imperceptible ripple ran across its surface, like water disturbed by an unseen current. Dr. Thorne stood beside Anya, his gaze fixed on his creation, a look of profound satisfaction mixed with intense concentration on his face. "This," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the rising hum, "is where they laughed. This is where humanity answers." The hum reached a crescendo, a deep, resonating roar that filled the entire construction bay. The very air around the eventide began to distort, shimmering and swirling as if seen through heat haze, but more profound, more wrong. It was the sound of a universe about to be bent, twisted, and explored in a way no one had ever dared. The ship's surface pulsed with a blinding inner light, momentarily overcoming its obsidian darkness. Then, with a silent, blinding flash, the eventide simply vanished. It didn't launch, it didn't accelerate, it merely ceased to exist in their perception, leaving behind only the echoing silence of the now empty, massive construction bay, and the lingering scent of ozone. Anya and Jax stood rooted to the spot, staring at the empty space where the ship had been, a moment stretched into an eternity, filled only with their own racing heartbeats. Then a single, clear voice crackled over. "The intercom. Eventide is out of phase. Jump successful. Initiating higher dimensional observation protocols." It was Thorne, his voice calm, triumphant. The impossible had just happened. The blinding flash of the eventide's disappearance was replaced not by darkness, but by something far more disorienting. Anya Sharma, still in the control room, felt a strange internal lurch, as if her very perception had been stretched and warped. The familiar walls of the control room flickered, briefly becoming transparent, revealing impossible geometries outside, shifting patterns of light and shadow that defied logical understanding. Then, just as quickly, the walls solidified, but the world within them had irrevocably changed. The air felt different, thinner, yet more resonant, vibrating with a subtle energy. The persistent hum of the ship was now internal, a deep, bone-felt thrum that seemed to emanate from the very core of their being. "We are through," Dr. Thorne's voice crackled over the intercom, calm and triumphant, cutting through the lingering disorientation. "Welcome to the seventh dimension, Ambassador. Or more accurately, we are now existing within the seventh spatial dimension, out of phase with the standard 3D universe." He appeared on the main view screen, his face alight with a fierce, intellectual joy. Around him, the console displays shimmered with data unlike anything Anya had ever seen. Complex probability fields, non-linear time streams, and geometric patterns that pulsed with unseen forces. The entire crew felt it, a collective gasp of awe and a prickle of fear. They were truly in unknown territory. Commander Jax Orion, strapped into his pilot's chair, was already running diagnostics, his hands flying over the controls. "All systems stable, Doctor. Dimensional field holding at optimal parameters, gravitic stabilizers compensating for phase shifts." His voice was steady, but Anya could detect a faint tremor of wonder beneath his professional tone. He had flown through asteroid fields, navigated nebulae, and survived countless skirmishes. But this was something else entirely. It was a journey into the very fabric of reality itself. "Look," Thorne instructed, his voice now imbued with the professor's eagerness, "at the main viewport." The viewport, previously a window to the gas giant's swirling clouds, now showed nothing. Just a vast, shimmering void, filled with swirling, opalescent mist. But then, as Thorne adjusted a dial, the mist began to coalesce, forming faint, ghost-like images. "What you are seeing," Thorne explained, his voice hushed with reverence, is our familiar 3D galaxy, but from a perspective no sentient being has ever witnessed before. We are observing it as if it were a flattened image, a tapestry woven from light and matter, every star, every planet, every ship, all visible simultaneously, unhindered by the limitations of light-speed travel or conventional perception. Anya leaned closer, her eyes wide with disbelief. It was true. She could see clusters of stars, nebulae, even the faint trails of FTL drives, all laid out before them, as if on a cosmic map. The galaxy, once an infinite expanse, now appeared as a singular, impossibly complex work of art. Thorne manipulated the controls, zooming in on various sectors. They saw the bustling trade routes of the Cathar Confederacy, the shimmering crystalline cities of the Xylos, even the faint energy signatures of the gaseous nebulae. There was no time delay, no light lag. Everything was now. Observe, Thorne said, a glint in his eye as he zoomed in on a specific point. The image sharpened, resolving into the familiar grand chamber of the Galactic Council. It was a replay of their recent session, but unlike a recording, it felt eerily present. They watched as Cathar delivered his condescending speech, saw the snickers and the open laughter of the alien delegates. They saw Anya herself, sitting stoically at the back, enduring the humiliation. The scene played out in real time. The very echoes of Cathar's voice seemed to vibrate in the air around them. Anya felt a chill. To witness their derision again, but from this godlike perspective, was both infuriating and empowering. This isn't just observation, Ambassador, Thorne continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. This is interaction. From this higher dimension, we can subtly, almost imperceptibly, influence the 3D reality. We can perceive patterns, predict trajectories, even nudge events in directions that benefit humanity, all without ever being detected. We are, effectively, ghosts in their machine. We can listen to their private communications, analyze their strategic movements, understand their every weakness, their every fear. He demonstrated, bringing up a complex network of projected lines and nodes, showing the galaxy's vast communication network. He isolated a Cathar frequency, and suddenly the chamber was filled with the chattering, multi-limbed voices of their former tormentors, discussing mundane trade routes, complaining about human inefficiency, and unknowingly revealing sensitive military data. The sheer power of this ability was breathtaking. It was intelligence gathering on an unimaginable scale, giving humanity an asymmetric advantage that no other species could possibly counter. Anya felt a surge of adrenaline. The years of being underestimated, dismissed, and ridiculed suddenly felt like a distant dream. The weight of galactic prejudice had been heavy, but now, from this hidden vantage point, it seemed almost trivial. Humanity was no longer a small, struggling species at the mercy of larger powers. They were a hidden force, a phantom in the cosmic machine, capable of seeing everything while remaining unseen. Suddenly, a red warning indicator flashed on one of Jax's consoles. Doctor, Ambassador, detecting an anomalous gravitational signature in the Xylos sector. It's impossible. It's appearing out of nowhere. Jax's voice was tight with urgency. Thorne quickly brought up the Xylos sector on the main view screen. What they saw sent a jolt of ice through Anya's veins. A vast, dark void was expanding rapidly, swallowing light and stars. "It's a rogue black hole," Thorne breathed, his voice laced with grim awe. "And it's not a natural phenomenon. It's artificial. It's being manipulated, and its trajectory—" He zoomed in further, highlighting a small, vibrant cluster of light. It's heading directly for Xylos Prime, a densely populated colony world, billions of lives. The image of the beautiful, crystalline Xylos cities shimmered on the screen. Oblivious to the monstrous unseen threat hurtling towards them, panic began to ripple through the ship's crew. This wasn't a drill, this was real, and it was happening now. "The Xylos won't detect it until it's too late," Jax muttered, his jaw set. "Their conventional mapping won't register an artificial singularity until it's practically on top of them. Their FTL drives are too slow to evacuate billions. Their gravity manipulation tech is insufficient to counter a singularity of that magnitude." The helplessness was palpable. Billions of lives, a thriving civilization about to be wiped from existence. And the entire Galactic Council, for all their advanced technology and smug superiority, would be powerless to stop it. Thorn's eyes, usually full of scientific curiosity, now held a cold, hard resolve. He looked at Anya. "Ambassador," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "this is our moment. This is why we built the Eventide. This is why we risked everything. The galaxy is about to see a glimpse of what humanity is truly capable of. From the unseen, we will act." Anya looked at the rogue black hole, then at the unsuspecting Xylos colony, and finally at Thorn, a flicker of understanding passing between them. The council had laughed. But soon, very soon, their laughter would turn to terror, then to awe, as the hidden hand of humanity reached out from the unseen depths of the seventh dimension to change the course of galactic history forever. The suspense was almost unbearable. The show of force, the rogue black hole, a monstrous tear in the fabric of space, grew larger on the Eventide's main view screen with every passing second. Its gravitational pull, immense and unforgiving, was already beginning to distort the distant stars, pulling them into a sickening, spiraling dance. On Xylos Prime, a shimmering jewel of a planet, billions of crystalline beings, blissfully unaware of their impending doom, went about their daily lives. Anya Sharma, Dr. Thorne, and Commander Jax Orion watched in grim silence as the countdown timer on Thorne's console ticked relentlessly downwards. "Less than 20 minutes to critical impact," Jax reported, his voice tight. "Their early warning systems still aren't registering it. They won't see it until it's too late to even scream." The helplessness was a bitter taste. For all the Galactic Council's boasts of advanced technology and supreme intellect, they were utterly blind to this silent, artificial destroyer. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, panic was now a tangible, suffocating presence. Ambassador Cathar, his usual arrogance replaced by wide-eyed terror, was pleading into the comms, his multiple limbs gesticulating wildly. News of the sudden, inexplicable appearance of a black hole hurtling towards Xylos Prime had just reached them, relayed by frantic Xylos scouts who, only moments ago, had stumbled upon the horrifying truth. "We are powerless," Cathar wailed, his voice raw. "Our best gravitational engineers cannot comprehend its trajectory. Our fleets cannot reach the system in time to evacuate even a fraction of the population." The council delegates, once so smug, were now a chaotic mix of fear and despair. The crystalline Xylos delegate, usually so stoic, was shimmering with uncontrolled, frantic light patterns, a sign of extreme distress. Billions were about to die, and the entire galaxy, for all its supposed might, could do nothing but watch. "This is it, Ambassador," Thorne stated, pulling Anya's attention back to the Eventide's bridge. "Their moment of truth, and ours." He moved to a holographic display of the black hole, now a swirling vortex of darkness consuming the light around it. "My calculations indicate a very small window to safely alter its trajectory. Any later, and the energies required would be too great, or the gravitational chaos too severe to control." Jax was already at the helm, his hands hovering over the ship's primary controls. "Ready when you are, Doctor. The dimensional projectors are pre-charged. The Eventide is primed for a kinetic gravitic pulse." He looked at Anya, a question in his eyes. She nodded, her expression firm. "Do it, Commander." This was not just about saving Xylos Prime. It was about revealing humanity's true strength, a strength born not of brute force, but of unparalleled understanding. Back in the council chambers, the atmosphere was thick with despair. Cathar had collapsed into his seat, his head bowed. The Xylos delegate was issuing a mournful, high-pitched keening sound. They were preparing for the worst, for the complete annihilation of a major galactic power. Then, a sudden, blinding flash erupted near the black hole on the council's main view screen. It wasn't a conventional explosion, but something far stranger. A shimmering, impossible tear opened in the very fabric of space, a jagged wound of pure light. From within this tear, something vast began to emerge. It was the Eventide, but not as a solid ship. It appeared as a colossal, multidimensional entity, its obsidian form rippling and shifting, its edges blurring into impossibility. It seemed to expand and contract, its form flowing like liquid shadow, somehow existing in multiple states at once. It was a terrifying, beautiful, and utterly incomprehensible sight to the alien eyes watching. What in the void is that?" Cathar stammered, scrambling to his feet, his many eyes fixed on the screen. The keening from the Xylos delegate abruptly stopped, replaced by a stunned, silent luminescence. On the Eventide's bridge, Anya, Thorn, and Jax watched the galaxy's stunned reaction on a separate mirrored screen. "Deploying primary gravitational emitters," Jax called out, his voice a low growl of concentration. On the Council's screen, the Eventide, now fully manifest as a colossal, shimmering teardrop of impossible geometry, began to pulse with an internal, ethereal light. From its leading edge, a focused beam of pure, raw energy lanced out. It wasn't a destructive beam, but something far more subtle. It connected with the rogue black hole, not striking it, but seemingly wrapping around it. A shimmering, invisible tether. The black hole, an unstoppable force just moments before, wavered. Then, to the collective, stunned disbelief of the galactic council, it began to shift. Slowly, agonizingly, its trajectory began to curve, moving away from Xylos Prime. The shift was minute at first, then more pronounced. The immense forces were being subtly, precisely manipulated, like a cosmic billiard ball being nudged by an unseen hand. On Xylos Prime, the first faint whispers of dread had begun, as their local sensors finally detected the anomaly. But before panic could fully take hold, the threat began to veer away. Relief, so sudden and profound it was almost painful, washed over the planet. On the Eventide, Jax gritted his teeth, his entire body tensed. Gravitic field holding. Trajectory shift confirmed. Approximately 5 degrees, 8 degrees. Almost there. Thorn was monitoring the energy readings, sweat beading on his brow. The power drain was immense, pushing the Eventide systems to their absolute limit. The hum of the ship, usually a quiet thrum, was now a powerful, resonant roar that vibrated through every deck. Anya watched the black hole, now visibly curving away from Xylos Prime, a sense of triumph swelling within her. This was the answer to their laughter. This was the silent, devastating proof of human potential. With a final gargantuan effort, Jax yelled, "Target clear! Black hole on new vector, away from populated systems! Disengaging primary emitters!" The focused energy beam from the Eventide flickered, then vanished. And just as suddenly, the colossal, multidimensional form of the Eventide began to recede, shimmering, blurring, and then, with a final, silent flash, it simply vanished back into the impossible tear it had created. The tear in space sealed itself, leaving behind only the normal, albeit now utterly bewildering view of the Xylos sector, and a rogue black hole continuing its new, harmless trajectory into the void. Silence, profound and absolute, fell upon The Galactic Council chambers. Cathar stood frozen, his many eyes wide with disbelief. The Xylos delegate, no longer keening, was glowing with a brilliant, steady light, a sign of utter astonishment and burgeoning hope. What they had just witnessed defied every known law of physics, every piece of conventional wisdom. A species they had dismissed as primitive, relegated to the outer fringes, had just, from seemingly nowhere, averted a catastrophic galactic disaster with an impossible, unseen technology. The laughter was gone, replaced by a chilling sense of awe and something else, a dawning, unsettling fear. The galaxy had just received its first, terrifying glimpse of the true power hidden within humanity. The game had changed, and they didn't even know who their opponent was. The unveiling and the new order, the aftermath of the black hole incident, was a seismic shockwave that rippled through every corner of the known galaxy. On Xylos Prime, what began as desperate fear had transformed into overwhelming relief, then into a profound, almost spiritual awe. The crystalline inhabitants, who moments before faced extinction, now looked up at the void with a newfound reverence, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing with complex patterns of wonder and gratitude. The Galactic Council, still reeling, convened. In an emergency session, their usual decorum shattered. The laughter was gone, replaced by bewildered whispers and a palpable sense of unease. Cathar, stripped of his usual arrogance, sat pale and shaken, his multiple limbs twitching nervously. The demand for answers was immediate, unanimous, and directed squarely at the human ambassador Anya Sharma. On the Eventide's bridge, now quietly rephased into its hidden dimension, a different kind of calm prevailed. Dr. Thorne, though exhausted, hummed a tuneless melody, meticulously reviewing the immense energy expenditure of their recent maneuver. Commander Jax Orion, leaning back in his pilot's chair, allowed himself a rare, triumphant grin. "They have no idea what just hit them," he muttered, watching the frantic chatter on the Council's communication feeds. Anya Sharma, observing the alien delegates' panicked reactions, felt a surge of grim satisfaction. "They will, Commander. Soon enough." The decision had been made. This was humanity's moment to step out of the shadows, not with aggression, but with an offer of unprecedented knowledge and a quiet display of undeniable power. Anya returned to the Galactic Council chambers, the silence that fell upon her entry thicker than before. Cathar, humbled beyond recognition, immediately approached her, his usual condescending tone replaced by a desperate tremor. "Ambassador Sharma," he stammered, his faceted eyes wide. What was that? What force intervened? Who possesses such control over reality itself?" The other delegates leaned forward, their myriad forms expressing intense curiosity and a growing fear. Anya met his gaze, her expression unreadable. It was humanity, Cathar. Her simple statement hung in the air, a bombshell in the hushed chamber. A collective gasp rippled through the delegates. Murmurs erupted, swiftly turning into disbelieving exclamations. "Impossible!" cried a Xylos elder. "Humans are Tier 3!" blustered another. Anya allowed the uproar to subside, then raised a hand for silence. "As I stated," she continued, her voice clear and resonant, "it was humanity, and what you witnessed was but a glimpse of the understanding we have cultivated, an understanding that transcends the 3 spatial dimensions you perceive." She paused, letting that sink in. For too long, humanity has been underestimated, laughed at, and relegated to the fringes. You believed our limitations were inherent, when in truth, they were merely the foundational steps for a far grander exploration of the cosmos. She then began to explain, not in technical jargon, but in simple, compelling terms, the concept of higher spatial dimensions, of the ability to exist out of phase with their reality, to observe and subtly influence events unseen. She revealed the existence of the Eventide, not as a weapon, but as a vessel of exploration and, when necessary, intervention. She spoke of Project Chimera as a testament to human perseverance and intellectual curiosity, a project born of a quiet refusal to accept perceived limitations. The alien delegates listened in stunned silence, their initial disbelief slowly giving way to awe, and then to a dawning, unsettling fear. The implications were staggering. A species they had dismissed as primitive had been operating on an entirely different level of existence, capable of seeing their every move, hearing their every secret, and even, as they had just witnessed, subtly altering the course of their reality. Anya then extended an olive branch, but one offered from a position of undeniable strength. Humanity seeks no dominion, no conquest. We seek only understanding and a place among the stars where our potential is recognized and respected. We offer our knowledge, advanced medical breakthroughs that could cure diseases previously thought incurable, sustainable energy solutions that could revolutionize your civilizations, and philosophical insights gained from centuries of deep thought. She projected holographic images of these advancements, simple yet profoundly impactful solutions to many of the galaxy's long-standing problems. The sheer generosity, combined with the chilling display of power, created a complex reaction among the delegates. Cathar, still reeling, could only stammer, "The architects. You are truly the architects." The legend of humanity as the mythical architects, the beings who seeded the galaxy, had been dismissed as fanciful myth. Now, in this moment, it felt like a terrifying, undeniable truth. Anya neither confirmed nor denied it directly, allowing the ambiguity to deepen the mystique. "We are simply humanity, Cathar, and we are here." Meanwhile, far beyond the council chambers, a different kind of reaction was brewing. On the desolate, heavily fortified home world of the Xylos conglomerate, a powerful isolationist faction of a once subjugated alien empire, the news of the black hole intervention was met with cold fury. Their leader, a grizzled general named Gretol, his chitinous armor gleaming under the harsh red sun, slammed a multi-jointed fist onto his command table. "The architects," he snarled, his voice a guttural growl that resonated with ancient fear. His species had suffered immensely in the ancient war with the aggressive species that had once warred with humanity. They remembered the raw power unleashed, the sheer destructive force. Kretal saw the re-emergence of this architect power as a direct threat to their hard-won independence and established galactic order. Our reconnaissance fleets confirmed it. A human vessel. Impossible technology. They are not to be trusted. Their return means only one thing: destabilization. He looked at his tactical officers, his multifaceted eyes burning with resolve. "Prepare our covert fleets. We cannot allow this ancient threat to rise again and dominate the galaxy." The story concluded with a tense, uncertain future. Back in the Galactic Council, a new era was dawning. Humanity, no longer ridiculed, was swiftly integrated into the highest echelons of galactic diplomacy and scientific exchange. Their insights sparked an unprecedented renaissance of innovation and diplomacy. Old alliances shifted, and new possibilities opened up. The whispers of laughter were replaced by murmurs of awe and a growing palpable respect. Yet as Anya Sharma looked out at the stars from her newly granted, much larger office on the council station, she knew the fight was far from over. The Xylos conglomerate, seeing humanity as a returning shadow from a terrifying past, remained a silent, simmering threat. The galaxy was forever changed by the unveiling, now living in a new order, but below the surface, ancient prejudices and newly ignited fears threatened to plunge the cosmos into another, perhaps even greater conflict. The true challenge for humanity, having shown their power, was now to wield it wisely, to navigate the perilous path between awe and fear, and to truly build a new, peaceful galactic order. The echoes of Sul, once a cry for help, now resonated as a defiant declaration of humanity's enduring strength and unyielding spirit.